My name is Ethan Harper. I'm 35 years old, living in Dallas, Texas, and I'll never forget the day I hired that clown. It was for my daughter Sophie's 8th birthday. She had been begging for a clown, and I wanted to make her happy. I found one online, a guy named Jingles, who seemed perfect for the job. His profile showed bright costumes, a painted-on smile, and silly balloon animals. He had good reviews, so I thought, why not? The day of the party arrived, and so did Jingles, right on time. He looked like every kid's dream clown. Oversized shoes, colorful clothes, and that big red smile. The kids loved him immediately, especially Sophie. She laughed at every joke, her eyes wide with excitement. But as the party went on, I started to notice something off about Jingles. He moved slowly, too slowly for a clown entertaining kids. His gestures were deliberate, almost as if he was sizing everyone up. It wasn't something the kids noticed. They were too distracted by the fun. But I felt this strange, creeping unease. I told myself I was just being paranoid. After all, he was just a clown. Then I noticed him paying extra attention to Leela, one of Sophie's quieter friends. She was a shy girl, always hanging back from the crowd. I could see Jingles glancing at her more often than the others, inching closer to her whenever he could. It made me uneasy, but again, I brushed it off. He was just trying to get her to participate, right? The party ended with cake and presents, and soon parents began picking up their kids. Jingles gave one last wave and walked off into the street, carrying his bag of tricks. I thought that was the end of it until Lila's mother started looking for her. Lila was nowhere to be found. We searched the house, the backyard, everywhere. But she had disappeared. Panic set in, and we called the police. They combed through the neighborhood, questioned everyone, but no one had seen her after the party. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Days passed with no sign of Leela. The police were at a loss. Her parents were devastated, and Sophie couldn't understand why her friend wasn't coming back. I felt guilty, like I had missed something. And that's when I remembered the footage from my phone. I had recorded parts of the party, just to capture the memories. Maybe it could help. I sat down that night and played through the video. At first, it was all fun, kids laughing, Jingles performing, Sophie grinning from ear to ear. But then I saw something that made my heart drop. In the background of the video, I saw Jingles standing near Leela. He wasn't doing a trick or making a balloon animal. He was watching her, his eyes almost too focused. And then, I saw it. A moment I hadn't noticed before. Jingles leaned down, his oversized costume obscuring Leela from view. His movements were quick, precise. And just like that, she was gone. I rewound the footage, watched it again. My stomach churned with dread as I realized what had happened. Jingles had taken Leela. I immediately called the police and showed them the footage. They searched for Jingles, put out alerts, questioned anyone who might have known him. But he was gone, just like Leela. Weeks turned into months, and still, there was no trace of them. Lila was never found. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that Jingles is still out there, lurking in the shadows. I don't know if I'll ever forget that painted smile or the way he moved so deliberately, like a predator stalking its prey. Every time I see a clown, even at another kid's party, my blood runs cold. I'll never forgive myself for hiring him. And every night, when I close my eyes, I wonder if Jingles is still out there, watching. My name is Marcus, and I'm 28 years old. I've lived in downtown Los Angeles for most of my life, and I thought I'd seen it all. Until I encountered the street performer clown. He was always out there, right near the busiest tourist spots, juggling, making balloon animals, and performing simple magic tricks. I used to think he was harmless, just another performer trying to make a living. But that changed one night. It was late, around 11 p.m., and I was heading home after grabbing dinner. I walked past the usual busy street, but this time something caught my eye. The clown was standing under a flickering streetlight, not performing but watching. His gaze was fixed on a group of teenagers who were laughing and messing around just a few feet away. I got an uneasy feeling but brushed it off as paranoia. I mean, who was scared of a clown, right? The next morning, the news broke. One of those teens had been found dead in an alley, their face painted like a clown. The sight of it shook me to my core. The news said the police had no leads, no idea who could have done it. But I knew who it was. I was sure of it. I couldn't stop thinking about that clown under the streetlight. His cold stare burned into my mind. I started keeping an eye out for him, determined to figure out what was going on. Every day after work, I walked around downtown, scanning the streets for that red nose and oversized shoes. For a while, nothing happened. It was almost as if he had vanished. But then I stumbled across something that made my blood run cold. I found a small article buried deep online about similar murders in different cities across California, each victim found with a clown's smile painted on their face. Every time, a street performer clown had been seen nearby, but no one had ever been able to find him afterward. I knew I had to track him down. My obsession grew until I couldn't think about anything else. One night, I spotted him again, this time near an old, run-down part of the city. He was moving quickly, almost as if he was trying not to be noticed. I followed him from a distance, my heart pounding in my chest. He led me to an abandoned building, its windows shattered, graffiti covering the walls. I hesitated for a moment, but curiosity pushed me forward. I slipped inside, my footsteps echoing in the empty hallways. As I went deeper, I found something that made my stomach turn. Polaroid photos plastered all over the walls. Each one was of a different person, their faces painted with a clown's smile. I couldn't breathe. I was standing in the middle of his twisted trophy room. The sound of footsteps echoed behind me, and I knew I had to get out of there. I ran, not looking back, sprinting until I was back on the street. I called the police, but when they arrived, the building was empty. No clown, no photos, nothing. It was like he had vanished into thin air. They never found him, but I knew he was still out there, lurking in the shadows, and I can't shake the feeling that one day he'll come back for me. It was late September when the Carnival came to town. It was an annual tradition, a place full of cheap thrills and flashing lights. But this year something about it felt off. I'm Alan, 32, and I live in Charleston. I've been to that carnival every year since I was a kid, but this time I couldn't shake the feeling that something darker was lurking beneath the surface. I decided to go on a Friday night, hoping to relive some of those old memories. The rides were the same. The food stands were greasy as ever, and the smell of popcorn and sugar hung heavy in the air. But there was a new attraction that caught my attention, an eerie clown act that went by the name Mr. Giggles. Mr. Giggles wasn't your average clown. He didn't make balloon animals or juggle for kids. His humor was dark, his movements were jerky, and his painted smile felt more sinister than playful. I watched as he entertained the crowd, cracking twisted jokes that made people laugh nervously rather than out of amusement. His assistant, a young woman, performed beside him in every show, but there was something familiar about her that gnawed at me. The next day, I was walking downtown when I saw a missing person flyer taped to a light pole. It was a young woman who had vanished months earlier. As I stared at her picture, my stomach dropped. She looked exactly like Mr. Giggles' assistant at the carnival. The more I thought about it, the more certain I became. It had to be her. That night, I returned to the carnival, my heart pounding. I couldn't shake the image of that flyer. I tried to ask around, see if anyone knew where the assistant had come from, but no one seemed to know much. When I told the authorities about my suspicions, they looked at me like I was crazy. They checked, but by the time they arrived at the carnival, the assistant had vanished. The next morning, the news reported another missing woman, a local this time. She had last been seen at the carnival the night before. My blood ran cold. I knew it wasn't a coincidence. Mr. Giggles wasn't just collecting laughs. He was collecting people. The carnival left town the next day, just as quickly as it had arrived. I spent every moment since haunted by those final performances, convinced that Mr. Giggles was hiding something far more sinister behind that painted smile. I tried to forget, but deep down, I knew, wherever that carnival went next, more would disappear, and I'll never look at a clown the same way again.